Hi, I'm Heather Bennett and welcome to your Maker Box tutorial for your holiday box. Thank you so much for being a subscriber. We super appreciate it. And this box inspiration was being home for the holidays and gathering around the table and being able to serve your loved ones. So I thought, what better project than a main focal project as a serving tray. But I wanted to put a different, unique twist on it and not just the trays that we have in the studio. I loved the fact of this edging, so you could really fill it how you needed to. You could even put parchment paper across it and still use it as a charcuterie board. There's so many uses with this project, and I hope that you love it. So let's get started on the tutorial. So in your kit, you have your paint, you have some handles with the screws on the back of your package, so we're going to use those in a little bit. And then you have your last name and your first stencil there. So we're going to put that to the side. We don't need it just yet. It's always good to have some paper towel around. And we're just going to get started on our frame. So my vision for this was just classic simplicity, but that doesn't mean that's what you have to do. If you decorate in buffalo plaid like I do, you could look back on some of our past tutorials. I believe the October box of last year, we taught a great plaid technique. So that would be an awesome one if you want to plaid your background. But I think it might make it a little bit busy too. So I'm going to keep it simple because I think simple is always a great thing. And it makes this project easy and something you can do while watching your favorite Lifetime holiday movie. So I'm going to get started with just a classic American Walnut Stain. I feel like it's nice and homey and it just works. I do want to put this on the lighter side, because anytime you're using a stain, if you use too much of it, it gets too tacky, and then you're really hiding the wood grain of the project. So, and I can see here on this board, there happens to be a little bit of a glue spot, and that's okay. We're just gonna kind of work with that because it's the beauty of a natural material. We don't always get to determine that, but it's fun nonetheless. And we can make it work. No mistakes, just happy accidents. We're gonna be Bob Ross in this situation. All right, so I got the background, and I'm gonna make it simple. If you wanted to do your frame a different color, you would actually paint your frame first and tape off your bottom with some painter's tape, blow dry it, and then flip that tape to get the frame a different color. But I'm gonna show you guys a little distressing to give it a slight different look. I didn't wanna frame it a whole different color because I want it to read like one cohesive tray personally. But there are no wrongs in art, so you do you, boo. However's gonna fit with your holiday decor. I have no doubt some of you have some colors at home, and maybe you decorate with the coastal Christmas, especially my Florida makers. And we love to see your projects, your finished projects. So please, 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 after you finish yours, get it all cute, take your best picture and hashtag it PGM MakerBox. We love to share our makers' creations. Now, if I were doing this as my project and not trying to film on live, I would paint the bottom. So you could just paint the bottom to make it cohesive. It's not gonna hurt it by any means, but it can stick to the paper. So sometimes I like letting it dry on wax paper or butcher paper, or just doing one side at a time. So I'll probably come back and do my bottom at the very end of the project. All right, so I have a nice, great first layer on there. I'm gonna go ahead and add just one more really light layer. I wanna richen it up just a little bit. And you'll see that layer is really gonna start evening out the tones. Now, by all means, if you don't like the walnut look, you could paint your whole tray red. You could do white. There's no wrong. The only colors you can't do as a background are any of the metallics that we send, because nothing's gonna stick to them, okay? So I got a nice background color there. Now I'm gonna do some light whitewashing distressing on my edges to kind of create a nice rustic look. So to do that, I'm gonna use a dry brush, dip the very top of it into it, and heavily unload on a paper towel, kind of like you're mad at it. You want to get it all out. And then I'm just going to do light sweeping motions all the way on and all the way off. This is going to give me a nice rustic look. which I love kind of that farmhouse Christmas. If you don't decorate rustic, just skip this step. But I'm really trying to wear those edges to make my frame stand out. Oh, I got a little heavy there, and that is okay. And I actually flung white on the base of my project, but now that I'm looking at that, that could kind of have a cool look. When I paint, personally, I kind of just let the paint talk. I know that's stressful to some of you. So if that stresses you out, don't feel like you have to. So I'm just continuing to dip, unload, and add some distressing over the top of my American walnut here. And you can choose if you want to go on the inside or not. I'm personally going to add a little bit on the inside, not worrying too much about getting right up on that edge, because then you might hit it like I just did. But I have some plans for the inside, so I'm not too worried here. Alright, so personally I'm digging this rusticy look, so I'm actually going to add a little bit of distressing on my inside too, and create a little bit of that farmhousey look. But again, this is completely up to you. And if you want to soften it, you can come back over with your damp American walnut sponge. So I didn't add any more paint there. I'm just kind of mashing it in and creating a true wash look here. And I will give you guys a up close here. So when I blended it, it just kind of gave it that nice wash. At this point, I'm going to go hit it up with the blow dryer. All right, and now that we have a dry board, we're going to make sure that we always sand. So I have a little sanding block, but you have a piece of sandpaper in your kit. And you're just going to make sure that the surface is nice and smooth, because when we paint, we raise the grain structure in a board, so we want to lay it back down. I'm going to put that to the side for just a second, and we're going to peel our first stencil. So this stencil is some amazing branches. Obviously, like we said, the theme is trees. And so we're going to take this, and this has a lot of pieces. So you're going to want to peel nice and low and slow. I like to peel back. If anything starts coming up, I just push back forward. It's great to kind of crease it. And then you're just going to keep pushing forward and peeling back slow. Anytime that something comes up, push forward. That crease seems to work, and peel it back slow. So this is a little bit more of a tedious stencil, but I love the way that it turns out. It's worth the extra work. And trust me, it was a little bit fun to weed for all 150 of you as well. So we did that hard part, but you gotta peel it back here. So again, anytime some blue comes up, just push, crease, and pull back a little bit steeper. All right, so now we have our stencil. There's not really per se a top and bottom because they're kind of mirror images of each other, so don't stress too much. You're just gonna line it up with the top of your frame, lay it down, and I don't really like to push into my board too much. I just like to kind of use my fingers to push it down, and that way it's not gonna adhere super strong to the board. But if you have any spot that is lifting up, push down a little bit more. You can use a credit card and burnish it on lightly, but I wouldn't put too much pressure because then your board can splinter. So same concept here, making sure all the blue is staying down. If anything starts to lift, you can use a credit card or just your fingers to kind of smooth it back down. And it's just because it's got lots of little inserts and pieces. So I love the simplicity of this. It's just a classic elegance. It reminded me a lot of like Joanna Gaines' Magnolia Home collections. It's got a farmhouse touch to it, but I think it also can read very modern. So just depending on how you decorate for Christmas. So I'm just finishing peeling, making sure I have all the clear. Where you see the stencil, you should be able to kind of feel the board through it. So sometimes there are different pieces of the clear. So make sure you have it all off, otherwise you're going to peel your blue off and the paint's going to go with it. All right, so at this point, you're going to want to make sure that you have a paper towel. I love these Scott shop towels, but any paper towel will work just fine. We're going to have our white sponges, and I'm just kind of going through and making sure all my edges are stuck down, so I'm not going to have any bleeding. So all my little branch pieces are nice and stuck and straight the way they should be. All right. So at this point, we really want to make sure that we remember a little bit of paint goes a really long way. So I'm going to use my green here. And I'm just going to load the back of my sponge. I use the flat part, dip it, scrape it off on the side, and then hop on a paper towel. And you're just going to hop, 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 hop. You always reload. If you have some other greens at home, you could create even more of like a textured pattern with this. Be careful not to go too dark if you use an American walnut. That's why we chose this Italian basil color, because it was just a great color. It's going to show up whether you did a light background or a dark background. It's a nice in-between green. And I'm just getting everything a nice thin coat. You never want to keep going over the same spot over and over, because that's when the paint's going to seep underneath the stencil. So give everything a thin coat and then come back through after you do one layer on everything and get your second. So I'm going to do that, unload, dip. Keep it hopping. And you'll also see, if you did our maker box, you got a little extra ornament included with your setup, and you're going to follow the same painting instructions. So we didn't do a tutorial for that, but they're lots of fun, and it's the same painting instructions. You do want to paint the background whatever color you want the main part of the stencil to be. So that's a nice little bonus gift. You can keep it for yourself, or maybe you're going to an ornament exchange, and that'd be fun to give. So now I'm going back through and adding a second layer on my green. I want to make sure that it's fully covered. All right, yay. So then I want to add a little touch of the silver to my stars, and it's the same concept, just the silver is a little bit thinner of a paint, so make sure you're really unloading, but it's going to show up beautifully on these stars. And then you have the option. For me, I personally like to not leave things just one solid color. I think I just like to finesse things. I don't know. But I'm going to add a little touch of snow to my leaves here. So to do that, I'm going to grab my brush, dip just the very top of it in paint, heavily, heavily unload. I don't want to do too much here. And I'm just going to lightly come and dry brush right across my stencil. You do want to make sure your green is nice and dry. But by doing this, it'll just add a little touch. And I do like to come all from one direction. But have fun with it. It doesn't really matter. As long as you don't have a big glob of paint on your brush, it's just gonna pick up a little touch of snow. I think it matches the distressing that we did on the frame, so that's why I wanted to kind of bring that element in there, just so it didn't look too stark. You could do this with a darker green too, and that would be really pretty. Kind of add some natural striations. All right, so now that we have that all set, we're gonna grab our tweezers, or if you don't have tweezers, a safety pin, anything like that works. Just grab that corner and you're gonna peel this back. It's so pretty. You're gonna have all these little pieces to peel. I can just see so many of these being used with, like I said, charcuterie boards or serving trays, TV trays. Maybe you're gonna serve your popcorn for Christmas Eve movie night. Maybe it just sits out for decoration and you put your favorite candle on it and it's cozy. There's so many uses for this tray. We really wanted to make it something versatile, but still something that you could serve with and gather people around your table. So we have our basics of our tray. So pretty. And then you got your last name stencil here that you can put right across the middle. So I'm gonna follow that same pattern. Peel the white away from the blue. Center it how I like it. Depending on your name, you might have some overlap. If you do, it's not a bad idea to resand. If you have like a big long Y or something that overlaps, you just want to give your green a light sanding. I personally don't, so I didn't, but a very light sanding is not going to hurt, and it'll make it crisp in those corners. All right, so I'm just gonna take this and let's see. I think I really do want my name to kind of stand out. You could do the red, but if you do red on American Walnut, it doesn't stand out very well. I've seen it happen a lot. So yeah, I think I'm gonna do white. Just be careful of your edges, like my tea got really close there. You could use painter's tape to block yourself off, and that helps a lot. Just getting everything again, a nice thin coat. The white does take a little bit longer to build, and don't get heavy with it because it's a thin paint, it likes to slide underneath. So just keep building layers, maybe go fold a load of laundry. Wait for a layer to dry, but do not use a blow dryer when you have a stencil. Excuse me. All right, So I got a nice good coat, but like I said, I don't leave anything well enough alone. So I'm gonna use my brush again, unload, and I'm gonna add a little silver accent over my name. Just because I can. But do not feel like you have to. Careful again for those edges. I accidentally went off a little bit, but I was able to kind of save it. But if you do go off, you can always do a light sanding and just add your background color again. So that's the nice thing about wood. You can always fix it. All right, now I'm just gonna peel this off and reveal my masterpiece. If you had any little bleeds, you can actually just scrape them away with a safety pin or tweezers. Sometimes if you catch them while they're wet, you never see them again. And you can see my handles magically got on in between clips. But your board is pilot drilled. So we've already put those holes where the handles will line up. So you just want to undo your packaging. There's screws in the back, and you're just going to use those holes to line up where you want your handle. You should be able to just hand screw them in with a screwdriver. Otherwise, we use the drill as well. But if you have any problems, let us know, and we'll be glad to send you a short clip. So there is my serving tray. I love it. There's so many things you can do with this. We can't wait to see how you use it. It's even just cute on a wall, really. Even with the hardware, it would be really versatile. So hope you love this project. Thank you so much again for being a Maker Tribe member. If you are a Combo Club member or a Gotta Have It member, we'll be posting those tutorials to those projects as well. So be sure to see those and watch them. The little ornaments, we didn't do a tutorial on, but they're the same process as the enclosed card in your kit. So we can't wait to see how those turn out. Again, ornaments, you can keep them or give them. It is the joy of Christmas, so do with it what you'd like. Thank you. Can't wait for next month. It's gonna be awesome. Bye.